Ahoy, me hearties! Welcome back to the channel. Are you ready to set sail on the high seas of D&D? In this here voyage, we'll be uncovering the secrets to making sailing adventures so exciting that your crew will be begging to weigh anchor. In this video, we'll be navigating through, turning the empty sea into a sea of stories, use peace flows and stretches to stir up on deck drama and character growth, hoisting the sails on daily ship life, bringing the sailor's life to your game with the rope pulling, sail adjusting and balancing as the ship leans, battling the elements, challenge your players with storms, high waves, and the unpredictable whims of the sea, facing fearsome threats, spice up your voyage with scallywag pirates and sea monsters that'll shiver the timbers, and the joy of sighting land, making spying the shoreline after a long voyage an exciting and triumphant moment. So batten down the hatches and grab your grog, because we're about to embark on an adventure that'll make your D&D sailing sessions the stuff of legend. Let's dive right in. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about how to make sailing fun in D&D. I hope that you enjoyed my intro. I got a little creative with that, but sailing adventures in D&D offer a unique opportunity to immerse your players in a world of exploration, camaraderie, and unexpected challenges. However, without careful planning, sea voyages can become monotonous, and they can become the types of things that you're tempted to skip, which I think is missed opportunity. Here's a guide that will help you make sailing engaging and memorable for your players, both during the voyage and through onboard interactions. And I even have a guide to help go along with this that I'm going to give you here in just a little bit. But let's dive into this, starting with point number 1, embrace the peaceful downtime at sea. Now, for this, I have a few key points and I have some GM tips. And here are my points for this. And this is really, I think, probably the biggest part where there's the opportunity for deeper role play and making ocean seafaring adventures even more fun. And that is that the vast empty sea is often the only sight when you're at sea in a sailing ship in a fantasy setting, leading to stretches of peaceful sailing. The downtime on the ship can provide ample opportunity for character development and interpersonal drama. Most of the journey involves routine tasks interspersed with moments of personal interaction. And so I've got some tips to help you make this part awesome. Number 1, encourage role play. Use the downtime to allow players to explore their characters' backstories, relationships, and personal goals. Prompt conversations by having NPC crew members share stories or ask questions. For example, you can have an old sailor share a tale of lost love, prompting characters to reflect on their own pasts. You can introduce onboard activities, offer mini games or activities such as teaching knot tying, fishing contests, or storytelling nights. These can build camaraderie and provide lighthearted fun. For example, you can host a shipboard talent show where each character showcases a unique skill. This might seem kind of silly, but when you think of it in context of everyone sitting around drinking grog and one of the NPCs challenges the PCs to a knife throwing contest where they're going to throw knives and knock apples off of each other's heads, this actually gets kind of fun and zany. And you can also develop subplots from this, okay? So introduce minor onboard conflicts or mysteries, like a missing item, a stowaway, or secret messages found in bottles. For example, the ship's compass could go missing. It could be a magical compass, and the players need to find it before the next navigational check. Otherwise, they may run aground on a shallow reef. So this could be a fun way to kind of put some mystery into it on the ship. You can also highlight the environment. Describe the serene beauty of the open sea, the sunsets, the starry nights, and the wildlife encounters to enhance immersion. While you don't want to spend like a ton of time on this, it really pays to kind of slow things down and to spend a couple extra sentences talking about these things to really paint that picture for your players. And to be honest, at night, you can even turn off the lights, light some candles, and then that can kind of give the sort of the serene feeling of being on the ship at night, right? Obviously, it's not as immersive as actually being on a ship, but we are talking about getting around the table and playing an immersive role play game. This brings us to my big point number 2, bring daily ship life to the forefront. So the key points here are as follows. Sailing involves a lot of physical tasks like rope pulling and adjusting sails based on wind strength. The ship's dynamics change with the wind, so boats will tend to lean and will require constant attention as the winds change. So here's some GM tips for handling this part of it, and these can also be a part of your adventure. Involve players in ship duties. Assign roles or shifts to players. And when I say this, I mean like have the captain of the ship or whatever assign the roles, or maybe the PCs are captains, or one of them is the captain, you can ask them, okay, who would you like to put the roles for? Here are the roles. Now, with this being said, if you're a little like unsure about the roles in sailing, or you're not quite sure about what kind of skill checks could be involved in this, I've actually put together just a easy PDF guide. You can find the link down in the description. It's called very simply D&D Sailing Rules Guide. And this can really help you with that part of it, like which skill checks to make for what actual roles that people can be assigned by the captain, and so on and so forth. So download that. It's free. You can just grab it off my Google Drive, and that will help you a lot with that. Now, these tasks that players might get assigned, or that they might assign NPCs, whatever, can involve skill checks or creative problem solving. For example, a player might need to climb the mast to adjust a sail, which requires an athletics check or maybe an acrobatics check. Okay. You can also create skill challenges. Use ship operations as opportunities for group skill challenges where players must work together to achieve a goal. One example could be navigating through a narrow passage. This might require coordinated efforts on steering, sail adjustment, and lookout duties. This could require navigators, tools, checks, and other types of checks. And it might require the team to all work together. And if even one person fails, it could have consequences for the others. So this is a fun way to have like a team dynamic. You can also teach nautical terms and practices. You can introduce players to sailing jargon and techniques to deepen the experience. For example, you can explain why they need to reef the sails when the wind picks up, adding authenticity to the voyage. And for this, you can actually just do a little bit of internet searching, find some cool sailing terms. And if you as a GM teach yourself just a little bit about sailing leading into the session, this could be a really awesome way to bring more immersion. Because when you use terms like this and you bring these types of elements, even if it's just like 12 or 13 different terms that you're bringing into the session, and the players are delving into this and they don't know these things, like this creates a whole nother level of immersion. It feels like a new thing. So this is a very exciting way to kind of get players more serious about the sailing part of it, rather than just being like, yeah, we're going to sail over there, right? You can also simulate the ship's movements. You can describe how the ship leans with the wind and sways with the waves, affecting movement on deck. An example of this could be during a sharp turn, such as maybe they're trying to avoid an iceberg or something. Players must make dexterity checks to keep their footing while also trying to perform whatever duties they need to do. So this can make for challenging moments and exciting moments, especially if someone fails it and they like go overboard and then there's like a rescue attempt. And this leads us to big point number 3, introduce navigational challenges and weather dynamics. So the key points here are that weather at sea can range from calm winds to fierce storms, or even no wind at all sometimes. High chop in storms can create dangerous conditions requiring special skills to navigate. Navigating shorelines also demands careful attention to avoid running aground. So these are all potential challenges. Now here's some tips for incorporating these elements into the game to make it like more fun. So number 1, dynamic weather systems. You can implement a weather system that changes over time, affecting sailing conditions and requiring adaptations. For example, a sudden squall forces the crew to secure the sails quickly to prevent damage, and the players have to work together to do this. You can use skill-based navigation. I actually really like this. You can use survival, nature, or navigation tool checks to steer the ship, predict weather changes, or plot courses. This is actually really cool, especially if they're following like some kind of handwritten map or like a treasure map, because they might find that the map is not precise, and so they have to try their best to navigate despite that. An example could be a character notices unusual cloud formations indicating an approaching storm, and then they have to roll navigation checks to see if maybe they can find a way to avoid it, that kind of thing. There's also storm encounters, and this is a big thing with D&D games. A lot of times there'll be like a storm encounter on sailing adventures, and for good reason. Design storm events as intense encounters with multiple challenges, such as high waves, lightning strikes, and equipment failures. So an example could be that a mast breaks during the storm and players must rig up a solution to keep the ship moving. You can also do calm seas, also known as the doldrums, present periods of no wind, leading to potential resource scarcity and morale issues. For example, with no wind for days, food and water supplies dwindle and the crew grows restless. This could introduce the opportunity for a lot of different types of like plot arcs that might happen while they're down and restless and there's literally nothing to do. do. Now, if you have a hard time coming up with plot arcs just on the fly for your adventures, I would encourage you to download my Ultimate Plot Randomizer. This is an ebook that lets you roll plot hooks easily on 4 random D100 tables, roll unlimited plot arcs literally within seconds. If you join my email list, link is in the description, you can download this. It'll come in the very first email and it's free, and you can add this to your stuff. So that's a great way to kind of like come up with those plot arcs on the fly if you need to and you want to make them random. And pretty awesome. I use it all the time. Another thing is navigating hazards. You can introduce reefs, sandbars, or narrow channels near shorelines requiring precise navigation. For example, players must guide the ship through a maze of rocks using perception checks to spot submerged hazards. So there could be like people having to make perception checks up front, and then they're trying to tell the person who's steering who needs to make navigation tool check, or maybe even just a straight up survival check to steer the ship. And this working together could be a cool element to get the group, a team building kind of thing. This leads me to main point number 4, include unexpected threats and encounters. Now, the key points here are, while less common than even stuff like weather issues, pirates and sea monsters are definitely a staple of D&D seafaring adventuring, and they can add a lot of excitement to the game. And let's be real, on a long voyage, you're probably going to want to have at least one pirate encounter and probably at least one monster encounter. These encounters can break the monotony and provide action-packed moments, or even present you with a great conclusion, like a final leg of the seafaring journey that the players have to get through to reach their destination. Here are some quick GM tips that you can use to put this into practice. Okay, so number 1, pirate attacks. We all love pirates. Plan encounters with pirates who may attempt to board the ship or demand tribute. For example, a faster pirate ship could approach with the Jolly Roger flying, and players must decide whether to fight, flee, or negotiate, that kind of thing. Sea monster encounters, okay? Introduce creatures like krakens, sea serpents, or merfolk to create thrilling battles or diplomatic scenarios. I actually love it when, like during the wind is calm and the ship really isn't moving much, there are mermaid sightings on the sides of the ship, and at night the mermaids might try to lure the sailors into the water with their beauty and then try to eat them. They open their mouths and they're like piranha mermaid. Like I love that kind of thing. I do that a lot in my sea adventures. I kind of make the creatures appear beautiful, but then they turn out to be ravenous monsters when the people get closer. So it's like sort of like a mimic situation, but not quite. Anyway, so I love to do that. Mysterious vessels. The group can encounter ghost ships, derelicts, or ships in distress, leading to exploration opportunities or moral dilemmas. For example, a seemingly abandoned ship may drift nearby. Investigating may reveal treasure or hidden dangers, or maybe even some kind of like that a disease wiped out the crew, and if crew members from your ship go on it, they could catch it, this type of thing. Environmental challenges can also be a thing. You can include phenomenon like water spouts, whirlpools, magical storms. These can pose unique threats. For example, the ship may enter a fog bank where illusions confuse navigation and players must discern reality. This could really put your spellcasters at the forefront, because they may have to try to cast spells to basically see through these illusions, right? You could also use trade and diplomacy encounters. You can meet merchant ships or foreign naval vessels, opening opportunities for trade, information gathering, and political intrigue. For example, a merchant offers rare goods but hides a secret agenda that players can uncover. Now, if you want some more ideas for stuff like this, I would encourage you to jump into my Discord and just feel free to ask away. We have an awesome Discord, bunch of members, a lot of GMs in there, a lot of people running games, looking for games. You can jump in, play games, jump in, run games. But if you're looking for some people to bounce ideas off and get some great homebrew ideas for stuff like this, you can just jump in there. If you love Discord and you like D&D or any TTRPG, I would encourage you to at least stop by. It's free, and you may as well jump in and say hi, and you might find something useful there. With that being said, this is going to take me to main point number 5. And this is my last point: highlight the emotional impact of reaching land. Now, the key points here are that after a long voyage, spotting land and arriving at port should be and would be a moment of excitement and relief. This can be a time of celebration and new beginnings, and it could also be a great time to explain how they see the lights of the shoreline or hear the music from the taverns and, guiding the ship into port, etc. There's a lot of kind of like fun, exciting things to describe here, and I like to make this a good moment, like a high moment, an emotional impact moment. So here's some tips for how to do that. First, build anticipation. As the journey nears its end, it describes signs of nearing land, floating debris, seabirds, changes in water color, etc. For example, a lookout could spot distant gulls, signaling that land is close, lifting everyone's spirits, right? You could also describe the arrival, paint a vivid picture of the port city, its sounds, smells, and sights to create a sense of wonder. For example, the bustling harbor teems with ships from distant lands, market stalls line the docks, and music fills the air, this kind of thing. You can plan a welcoming event, arrange for festivals, markets, or important meetings upon arrival to engage players immediately. For example, the city could just so happen to be celebrating a local holiday, and the disembarkment of your ship could coincide with this, offering games, performances, potential quests, plot arcs, trading, interesting plot hooks, all kinds of things like that. You could also spend some time reflecting on the voyage. You could encourage players to share their characters' thoughts on the journey, perhaps during a final meal on board, or before you sell the ship, or before passage is completely done, whatever. For example, the captain might invite everyone for a farewell toast, allowing for character moments and closure. This could be a great time to just kind of give everyone a little bit of the spotlight, asking their character, not them as a player, but Rob the rogue, tell me, how did you feel about the ship and what were its most harrowing moments? This kind of thing. And this could be a fun opportunity for players to like role play a little bit in maybe ways that they wouldn't have done otherwise. You can also set up future adventures. Use the arrival here to introduce new plot hooks, NPCs, or challenges that may tie into the next phase of the campaign or into your next session or whatever. For example, as they disembark, a mysterious figure approaches with an urgent request on a handwritten note, right? And then after they hand in the note, they disappear, and leaving the players with some kind of clue, or maybe a treasure hunt, or meet me at the tavern at sundown, whatever. With that being said, I do have a few additional tips to help you enhance your sailing adventures that I'm just going to run through real quick. These are just like extra things I threw on the end here that I think are really good and important. Number one, use random encounter tables. You can prepare a list of potential events to keep the voyage unpredictable and exciting. Number two, you can incorporate music and sound effects. You can use sea shanties or ambient sounds like ocean waves and stuff to set the mood during sessions. I love to do this. You can map the ship. This I think is actually really fun. Provide a detailed map of the ship and a multi-layered map to help players visualize and engage with their environment. I think this is important on a small environment like a ship for long periods of time. You can develop the crew, create memorable NPCs among the crew with distinct personalities, goals, and potential side quests. For example, you could have a cook who needs help procuring special ingredients from the sea, leading to a mini fishing game or like a diving adventure or whatever. You can also explore different cultural differences. Like if the ship has a diverse crew, which it probably does, highlight the different customs, languages, or practices that can enrich interactions. For example, a sailor teaches a character a traditional sea song in another language, or maybe you have dwarven and elven sailors swapping tales, or maybe even boasting about how their race are better at sailing than the other. This is kind of a fun thing. You can also address supply management, introduce resource management elements like rationing food or repairing equipment to add depth. For example, a broken water barrel forces the crew to desalinate water using makeshift methods, or even encourages the magic users to step up and create enough water to supply everyone. And that's going to be a wrap for this. By focusing on both the grand and subtle aspects of sea travel, you can transform sailing from mere transit into a dynamic part of your campaign, incorporating a mix of character-driven moments, challenging encounters, and immersive descriptions to keep your players engaged throughout the voyage. Remember, the journey can be just as exciting as the destination when filled with creativity and opportunities for adventure. And hopefully this has given you that. So hey, that's all I've got to say on this one. Thank you very much for coming back for another video. I'm here almost every day making videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So I'll see you awesome people on the next one.